So these are 3 project case studies that we did with HCL Aftermarket Cloud and a massive client out of Europe and North America. And this is what it takes to properly collaborate with these clients and with HCL Aftermarket Cloud Solutions. We had 3 major projects. One of them was to digitize a parts catalog, which was on an Access database, and they had to use USB keys or paper to send to their clients, which was awful and slow. Now we've put in a digital catalog, which is on the web, real time, everything digitized, and they can upsell parts or kits in the future, put it on internet devices so people can order right off mobile devices and do all kinds of analytics right away. So we've greatly improved the entire way that they use their parts catalog, and even for errors, they can look at their errors. If there's an error in the catalog, they can fix it real time, and the clients can look at the reporting real time and see when they're going to get the error fixed, as opposed to pictures and email. So it's a huge difference. The next project is a 25 plus dealer management system across North America that service all the buses. This client has 86% of the business in Canada and 36% of the bus business in the United States, intercity and city. So we want to get the buses in and out of those dealer management systems and repaired as soon as possible. And one of the things is we're improved cycle time. So they didn't have a quote process, for example, with SAP. So that's something we put in, and we ended up getting the buses in and out, and the people don't have to wait to sign off paperwork and slow everything down. Everything's real time online again. And we're looking at infinite data reports, literally, to analyze the time and attendance and any kind of aspect of the repairs to show how long it took for an operation to be done, and you can compare it across all dealer management systems, and fully integrated with SAP, which was a big challenge. SAP is not an aftermarket specialist, so they asked to have a more robust system and be able to increase repair cycle times, and that's where HCL software came in and put in better time and attendance, and merge that with like base scheduling and other different modernized aftermarket tools that really help them, as opposed to SAP, which slowed them down. Third was time and attendance system in a huge assembly plant in USA. This was an assembly plant the size of 2-3 football fields, and they had a barcode reader, no security, ancient, could have been cyber attacked anytime. So they wanted to switch that up and put in a cutting edge aftermarket solutions. And we did that, and we gave them much more than they needed, because they needed much more. Drag and drop screen functionality to show all the bay areas where the buses were. They can measure their assembly station cycle times in real time. Again, any kind of data reports, and fully integrated with SAP financials. So those are the 3 projects that we did, and then we'll go into more details as we go along. All right, so the digitization of parts catalog for the bus manufacturing, they wanted to obviously put everything in the cloud, have it real time on the internet, on the web, upsell, mobile, all that good stuff. So in the beginning, they removed some major data conversion to save money. I put it back in because you can't have missing data from the client and then create digital catalog. It's pretty straightforward. We had extensive process gating lists. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we actually had over 3 million pieces of data that we had to clean, validate standards, and migrate onto the web, which was a huge project, but that's the only way to get it done. And HCL software ended up having a good, strong methodology to do this. And then we had 6,887 approximately future viewers that were using the parts catalog. So when I say future viewers, we're talking about bus transports in major cities across North America, and individual users that were buying $3 million buses. So you're talking almost 7,000 people that were using this catalog. That's a lot. We had last minute customization asks from the client that probably added a month to the project, but as long as the client was willing to pay for it. That was fine. But unfortunately, it should have been brought up earlier, but that's what happens. An executive just demands something at the last second, and you have to get it done sometimes. And then the communication user manual and launch date from a client. So the user manual for a parts digital catalog for this, which is many thousands of pages, is very, very extensive. So the user manual has to be done perfectly in French as well. And the client marketing division was stalling to launch it. I had to escalate it to the senior North American VP, and it got launched on time. That's the things you have to do in these projects. So it got done properly. It wasn't nothing to do with HCL. It was more to do with the client was taking their time to launch the user manual. I wanted to get it out there as soon as possible. The sooner the better. So in conclusion, basically, look, you've got advanced analytics now. You've got advanced enhanced customer insights with the digital catalog. You can promote kits. If you're putting out a new window or a new door, you can promote that right away, months ahead for all your buses. You've got a much better sales process because obviously everything's real time online. You can upsell and you can look at significant growth with this upselling. And then the customers absolutely loved this digital catalog. They really love it. And there's a whole bunch of them that probably would like it themselves, but that's another story. So there's nothing but positive comments coming from all the clients of this client on using something that's right in front of their face and updated in real time. It's so much more efficient, easier for them to use as opposed to getting USB keys whenever there's an upgrade. All right, so this is a lot of information here. I don't want to go through it all, but the digitization, this is a sample gating requirement that we filled out. So if you look at the client gates, you've got all these major gates, so you cannot continue until you've passed all the different expectations from each one of these gates. So I've just kind of put them together as a sample. This isn't the actual client list. You can see create concept and IT requirements, process and IT design, et cetera, and all the expectations, execute the project plan, manage project resources. So every gate would go in front of the senior management of the client in Europe, and you'd have to explain if you're ready to go on to the next gate. And you have all the documents as well, if you go to the third column, that you have to prove and have to present. And then you have to have the prerequisites to launch the project for each gate and who's responsible to approve all this. And if you look down below, we started off also with the overall architecture that the client was demanding. You're going into a cloud environment. So you're looking at what's your architectural map, and you had to prove that you had very, very strong security, as we can see in the world today, that there is some pretty interesting things happening with security. So to make sure that security is tight, we had to meet the client's demands, and HCL was capable of doing that every single time. So the dealer management systems across North America were using SAP 25 plus. And they were facing major problems with the rollout because it wasn't really integrated well. I stepped in to replace the client project manager, look at the business requirements, look at the mapping if you have to, all that good stuff. And there was no really proper comprehensive SAP integration from the client. So there was financial discrepancies at one point, and the books were not balancing for these dealers, and it got escalated very high up, and we potentially could have lost the entire project because of this. This had nothing to do with HCL. This was to do with the client had never really given proper instructions on how to integrate, or what to integrate with SAP. We did a detailed recovery plan, daily meetings with the client for months, and we recovered everything. And then eventually after that, then we did a valid subscription cost for users and all that good stuff, because it's very important for us to do that and make sure that the client understands what the subscription costs are for. So a lot of effort put up front to make sure the project works properly, but we also want to make sure that year after year that we give the proper service and that we have the proper subscription costs for each user, and we know who has read or write or not read or write. access to the dealer management system. I want to talk about this detailed recovery plan. This is a template that we put together with a client, which I think was excellent and saved the project. So here we have a sample. It's a lot of information, but if you look up at the top, you have the bug name. Say there was 10 bugs that were the problem with these dealer management system. Invoices showing different amounts in different systems. There's your bug description. What's the root cause analysis? Manual entry errors causing discrepancies. This is a general description. This is not the actual recovery plan, but this is the way you use it. What is root cause category? Data entry. What's the root cause? Status, closed. Solution type, is it permanent or could it be temporary? You can always put in a temporary one until you put in you don't always have the time to put in a permanent solution. What's the proposal from the team? Who's the owner? What's the action plan? Priority, current status, start date, end date, solution date, due date, budget. This is the detail you have to go into when you have a situation where your books are not balancing, your financials are not working. So we did that for 2 months straight. We brought everything back online. We integrated fully with SAP. We fixed all the errors. There was thousands and thousands of different guarantees that they're giving clients and warranties, and we had to look at all that and make sure that they all worked together and that the clients got their guarantees and warranties for all the different vehicles. It was extremely, extremely complex. I would say this is the most complex thing we had to do. And we had to work with HCL. We had to work with training. We had to work with developers from the client side, developers from HCL to get this done. And we ended up getting it done, and it was a huge success in the end. We ended up putting in dealership dashboard where they could see all their tickets, all the individual jobs, how you can track them. They're all color coded, very easy to see where the jobs were, what stage they were, who was working on it. Much more visual, much more easier to track than in different screens. It was much more efficient the way they were, instead of working through SAP, and it was integrated with time and attendance system. And it gave them full visibility to everything that was going on, all the operations. All the managers had their own reporting that they could use, and it was much more efficient than using Excel or in some cases SAP to get this information. And they were extremely happy with it. The clients usually adapt to it quite quickly and really enjoy working this is because of the visibility, and all the financials balance perfectly. Project 3. So they asked us to put a time and attendance system in a major assembly plant in USA. Huge plant, maybe 3 football fields long. All kinds of security vulnerabilities. I think they're at a code 5, which is the maximum. Ancient. Could have been cyber attacked anytime, so they wanted to switch that up and put in a cutting edge aftermarket solutions. They were relying on Excel spreadsheets without any checks or balances. They could erase things. So if a guy came in 4 hours later, you could go, hey, can you take off 2 hours? It doesn't happen in a HCL software database. It gets, encrypted in there. And there was no processing power. They had to run the reports on the weekend, which was terrible. So guys were literally working on the weekend to run reports. Managers, they should be taking care of their kids or playing golf. And there was no drag and drop dashboard, nothing like that. It was all done in Excel. It's just so easy to take the numbers and hide them if they wanted to. And we saw that they were doing that in some cases. Absence of real-time operational data reporting. Now, again, you're looking at cycle. We're giving them not just time and attendance, but we're showing each operation how long it took. And when we presented to the plant manager who ran that huge plant, he said, "Oh my God, I can actually see how many buses are coming out real time." Yeah, exactly. And then you can see how long it's taking for those buses to be assembled. It's a huge difference from what they were doing before. Before, it's just a barcode system. We gave them laptops. There's 6 laptops throughout the shop floor, and some of these guys had never even used a laptop, believe it or not, but they loved it because now they could put all their operations in their laptop right away. They couldn't compare similar operations. So if one guy comes in and he's taking 2 hours doing an operation, the next guy comes in and it takes 5 minutes, you can see that right away. So you go, why is it taking 2 hours compared to 5 minutes? How can we improve that cycle time? Well, the information is right there in the cloud, and you can do those comparisons and start looking at, hey, how can we improve? So this is all things that challenges that we want to make sure that we were able to take care of for the client. So what did we do? Well, we resolved all the security insecurities. We put in remote communication tools. We used that for COVID so that we were able to communicate with them more efficiently. We took off their Excel-based system, put in a cloud system with more robust checks and balances. They were, for instance, they were moving a bus that was outside. It wasn't in the Bay Area. It was outside. It was frozen. So we had to take that in consideration as a Bay Area for these are the things that we had to get out of the workshop sessions with the client that we didn't know, or they had to drive a bus out and test it on the road between Bay Areas. All those things have to be considered as a business requirement. And when you do it remote, you have to really get it up front because they're not going to talk about it. They're going to be on their iPhone sometimes. We obviously improved the reporting processing. The clients were able to see automatically how much sick time they had, how much off time they had, how much time they accumulated right away. Didn't have to go to the boss and go look into a paperwork system or Excel spreadsheet. It was all there for them. And it makes a huge difference when you have workers that can actually see when they have time off and sick time and all that good stuff. And it's right there in front of their face. We use a modern drag and drop dashboard. If they move the bus, they could just drag the box over to the next bay schedule area on the screen. And it's a hell of a lot easier to do that than try to type it into Excel. The real-time reporting and all that good stuff, of course, like I said, it gives you insights on daily, monthly, and yearly bus manufacturing output. What are your cycle times for daily? What are your cycle times for monthly? What are your cycle times for yearly? And how can you make that all more efficient? Infinite data amount of reports. You have a set of reports that are there, but if you want to have different reports, they're all there. So it's up to the client to decide how they want to run all that, but they have infinite possibilities. So the analytical tools as well, we can even start getting to AI and predictive analysis at one point if you want to in the future, probably to see how can you improve the cycle times of repairing a bus or even the entire cycle time of before the bus gets in and as it gets out. But again, I keep talking about cycle times and reducing costs, and that's what I focus on, and that's what we want to focus on. Fully integrated with SAP, as you know, it's extremely complex, but we ended up working heavily with finance, and that was fine. That got done very well. And we understood all the pay grades and all the different people and what their job responsibilities were and all that good stuff. We brought that project under budget, in scope, and on time, way under budget. So we took the lessons learned from the 25 dealer management systems because they had the time and attendance system as well integrated. And we used that and we put it in to this plant. And I believe that from what I understand, we're looking at expanding it more across the client in North America. So in conclusion, how do you adopt a modern secure system and how do you do all this? I think with Dr. Rutrish, HCL Cloud team, his experience, his 30 years of experience of doing this, his micro and macro understanding, and the white papers that he's written on aftermarket have been innovative. I've read them. And I really learned a lot about the aftermarket business. I already knew some of it, obviously, but I think that one of the things about HCL software is that they not only develop the product, but they also consult directly on the product. So if you're with SAP or you're with another ERP system, you may have, and I've worked for, I was a senior consultant with IBM, so you may have SAP, but you have IBM consultants. So it's a little bit of a challenge because I'm not directly related to what IBM developed. But here you're getting HCL Cloud team that have developed the product and they're also giving you the service. So it's instantaneous and it's in 24 hours or real time if you need it. It's not like waiting for Accenture or one of these other big six companies to go back to SAP and ask questions. This is much more efficient to work with HCL. And I think that it continues to evolve. I've been in presentations with them. I've seen what they can do with base scheduling. We did have some other presentations with clients with a major diamond mining client. I won't mention the name, but you can imagine who it is. And they need base scheduling. and they need time and attendance because it's just not efficient. So they continue to offer probably for sure, some of the best products you can have in the aftermarket. And I think that the companies will have growth and innovation for the future with all these products.